Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wadhavan, for your assurance that DHFL will continue to support our industry. I now request Mr. O.P. Bhatt, former Chairman, State Bank of India, to share his thoughts with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. O.P. Bhatt.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to Mr. Shaktikant Das, the chief guest for today's event. It's very gracious of him for having taken the time to come here. I myself feel very honored to have been invited for this function 5 years after retirement. And I'm glad that I came here because some of the people that I've met here, this is possibly the best venue in Bombay in terms of grandeur and size. And the kind of people who have come here from all over the country, in fact, some of them from many parts of the world, befitting for the occasion. And I'm glad I met some old friends, made some new ones. All of them, you know, people from the bullion world, dripping with gold, powerful men and women. And for me, you know, my eyes are of bronze, my hair is turning silver, but I believe my heart is of gold. Pure gold. And from that perspective, I do understand a little bit about gold and the craving and the fascination for gold that people have. It is not true only of our society, it is worldwide. If you remember Archimedes, you know, the king had asked him to find out how much impurity is there in his crown made of gold. And from there we have one of the most fundamental and basic scientific principles. To the tales of Ali Baba, you know, gold in that tarazu or something, the Midas touch, and so many stories in our own Indian pantheon of stories, traditional stories, stories about greed, stories about crime, stories about nobility, all around gold. So gold, you know, there is a socio-cultural, socio-economic ballast around gold. And it goes back centuries. And it's not going to go away. We keep talking about it, you know, the fascination of the Indian society, fascination of Indian women with gold. And we keep on wondering, you know, how much gold gets locked up into all these things, into unproductive activities. And we keep on coming out with schemes that we could do something about it. And we don't succeed. But can you wish away psychology? Can you wish away sociology? Can you wish away culture and tradition? Can you wish away needs? There is a need to save and store and hide. There is a need to bequeath. Gold is something you can do all of it. You can exchange, you can gift it, you can hide it. You can feel safe and secure with it. So this is one thing that is not going to go away, and therefore the interplay of gold between hundreds and millions of consumers in India and worldwide, between manufacturers, you know, the upstream and the downstream players, the distributors, the sellers, the artisans, is not going to go away. What we have to do is to make sure that this interplay is positive and constructive, that it is not a drag on the economy, but that it becomes a positive force for the economy. In that will lie both success and achievement for government, for society, and for businesses. And we have to find a way out where we can make this happen. And today is the right time to think about it. If you look at India, we are on the cusp of a huge change. Forget about, you know, current statistics or small statistics, you know, which talk about the day, the week, the quarter, or the year. But to look at the big picture, I don't think there were better chances of India as a country which has a promising future. We have the highest growth rates in the world. We have the highest working population in the world, and soon maybe we will have the highest population also. But if you were to look at the aspirations of these people, if you were to look at the gap between what they have and where they can be, if you look at the gap of where we are and where others far more mediocre than us are, if you look at the gap between us and our potential, our promise, our power, our possibilities, it is huge. And the straining at this gap, trying to bridge this gap alone will drive this country to prosperity, to rates of growth unheard of. Even in struggling for roti, kapra and makan, we can get 6, 7, 8% rates of growth. And going beyond that, our youngsters, who are dying to do something meaningful and constructive, who want a better lifestyle, who have aspirations to be the best in the world, there is no end to it. So in this modern economy, where we have got these aspirational pulls, and I, for one, believe that an economy is driven by psychology. An economy is driven by mentality. An economy is driven by ideals and visions. All other things that we have, financial instruments, infrastructure, etc., are the enablers. They are the facilitators. They are a necessary condition, but they are not a sufficient condition. Sufficient condition comes from the mind. And I think that is where they are. And it hurts me greatly to see that today, the power of science and technology that we have, the power of institutions that we have, the power of leadership that we have in this country, and the amount of plenty that we have of many, many, many things, largest milk producer, largest this, that, and the other, and yet, large numbers of people in this country are wallowing in poverty, don't have enough food to eat. And that responsibility lies on all of us, all of you, all of us put together. And so, why I'm saying this is that at this point, when we are in the cusp of growth, one of the important enablers of growth is how investment flows, how investment or assets get allocated. And one of the stories or one of the truths oblique myths about gold is that it enables, at least in India, for assets or investments to get misallocated. And one of the reasons is that we don't have enough financial instruments for people who want to save for a rainy day, for people who are outside the formal financial banking system in rural and semi-urban areas. Maybe there isn't a plethora of financial instruments where they can invest. Which is why what the government has now come out with, those 3 schemes, the gold monetization, the gold bond, and the gold coin, they are steps in the right direction. And it is therefore our duty to see that we make them work efficiently, not only these schemes, but the whole periphery around these schemes, whether it is the refiners, whether it is the exchange traded funds, whether it is the commodity exchange, if at all it were to come around, which can also be dealing with gold. So it becomes our duty to make sure that we make these schemes function efficiently. And a lot has been said about them already. A lot of more is going to be said about them throughout the day. So without going into the nitty-gritty of it, if we were to make these schemes more efficient, more relevant to the common man, more such so that, large volumes get driven, there are just 2 or 3 small thoughts that I have, and I leave it for you, and especially for Mr. Das to see whether something can be done about it. So one of the things that has been said about the bond is that the pricing, it's not dynamic the way it should be, right? It's a little stale, the price on which those bonds are sold. The thought I had, and I'm speaking as a layman, as a retired person, senior citizen, right? So if somebody was to invest in, gold price is volatile. It can vary from day to day, definitely from week to week, maybe from hour to hour, minute to minute, and all that. So if the pricing were not only more dynamic, but if it were at all possible for the government to think of giving a small discount on the price, the discount could be calculated on the average weekly variation or monthly variation or whatever it is. Because today you buy at X and tomorrow the price is X minus Y, then obviously you feel bad about it. But if you're investing not only for 5 to 8 years, but if the period of investment is stretched to 10 to 15 years, then this becomes important for the saver. He feels comfortable that whatever price he invests with is not the bad price, is not the high price at that range of time. It is also important for the recipient of those funds because the volumes, as any investment banker will tell you, the volumes of funds that you can generate from any fund mopping exercise globally depends upon the pricing, depends upon the sweetener that you leave on the table. So if the government was to leave a little sweetener on the table, possibly the volume that they will generate for 8, 10, 15 years is going to be huge. So that is one suggestion that I have. The other suggestion, which may or may not be liked, but it has happened in the past, is why would I bring my gold to the bank? They want to know all kinds of things from me. Can you give me a little amnesty? And I'll stop here. can this be examined? Because it has happened in the past. I'm sure it will happen sometime in the future. Whether we can be bold enough to take courage in both our hands and make it happen today. The third suggestion that I have is this gold monetization. We say that there is a lot of gold in our temples, Vaishno Devi temple or Tirumala temple or this, that and the other. But what comes out, and being a person who worked in a bank, and we found it very difficult to coax these temple trusts to give gold to the bank for a variety of reasons, some of which we understood, some of which we never understood. So I'm wondering whether it is possible to use the majesty of the law to make it mandatory for some of these august bodies who have tons and tons of gold to keep the gold not with them, but with a third party, a government agency or a bank or something like that. And I suppose, the flow of gold for monetization through this way would become a flood. I don't know how good these suggestions are, but I'm suggesting them in the national interest, and not as an expert, but as a well-wisher of this country. And with this, I will end my presentation. Thank you so much.